That's it.
Yeah, just hit it once. Yeah.
Good afternoon. 5:15. I'd like to open the Harwich Affordable Housing Trust meeting for January 15th, 2025. We're all here. We have a full quorum. Happy New Year, everyone.
Same to you.
And on the agenda, I'm taking the chairman's prerogative and asking the first presentation of that Art have a public comment. Art?
I guess can you hear me from here?
We
No,
can't. You have to stand, go by the table. Art called and asked if he could just make a short public comment.
Wait a minute. This is the Art that I know, who's going to make a short comment?
That's why.
Good afternoon, Art Bowden,
Hi, Art.
Housing Committee, and a few other things. This is just a short comment. It's mainly more like a commercial. CPC supports Community Development Partnership Organization with funding to help with their housing initiative programs. And one of the problems we're having, well, that exist, the participation from Harwich is basically dismal. And so the CPC is actually questioning whether they should continue with the funding to Community Development Partnership. Now, this funding dollar-wise, it's a small item. It's like $10,000 a year. So all the towns in the Lower Cape area support this housing initiative program. So, so we're trying to get the word out, or at least I'm trying to get the word out, that when you see these programs advertised, and I usually have at least one a month on the average, and some months they might be more. And true, there's some programs that, really not of interest to only a certain segment of people or a very specific segment. Like next month, there's going to be a program for first-time home buyers. Well, that probably won't apply to anybody in this room, but it's important. But the one we just had was wastewater and housing.
Yeah.
And initially, when I got the flyer, this was going a month ago, I said, I found that very fascinating. And as it turned out of about probably 70 or 80 people that participated, and these are all virtual meetings, there was actually 4 people from Harwich. And of course, they won't tell you who the 4 people were but anyways, it was very interesting. I learned a lot about wastewater, and I even learned a few things about housing.
Yeah.
So if we get a chance when the next month, when the programs come up or in the future, try to support them.
Okay.
They're doing a good job.
Okay. Thank you, Art.
And they're helping
They're
everybody
helping,
that's in housing.
Right. They've had good. I've been to some of their meetings. They're good.
Okay.
Okay. Thank you, Art. Duly
Thanks, Art.
noted.
Thanks, Art.
Bob, that was.
I take it back.
Take it back.
Yeah.
Be polite next time. Moving on to new business. I invited Katie Klein. Katie, thank you for joining our meeting. And this is a broad topic. During our discussions, almost every week, someone has a question that we feel we should have legal expertise involved. And so what I'd like to do is ask some of our members to kind of brainstorm some of the questions we've had with you, if that's okay.
Sure.
Because I don't have any specific items on the, like Penrose, or I avoided any specific items in this case to make it more general. And so with that, Katie, just for the record, can you identify yourself? Because this is being recorded.
Yes.
So.
My name is Katie Klein. I'm an attorney at KP Law, and we are town council. And I've been working with the Affordable Housing Trust on this particular project on Queen Anne Road. And I'll give you a little update if that would be helpful.
That'd be perfect.
Okay, so I believe you've seen the proposed land disposition agreement, and we have, I took your comments and have gone back to the attorney for Penrose, and we are very close on that. And one of the questions I had for the trust was whether or not we want at this point to include as an exhibit to the land disposition agreement the ground lease that ultimately will be signed when at the closing on the property. And the answer to that was yes, and I received a proposed ground lease, I believe it was on Tuesday, and I've started to review that, and I will have comments to you soon on that for your review, and you'll see the document as well as my comments. And I also spoke on Tuesday, I believe I also was with the attorney representing Penrose, who is his name is Jacob Taylor, and he's at Klein Hornig. And I have a sort of a rough timeline that might be helpful to members of the trust. And the expectation is that as soon as we get the land disposition agreement signed up, which hopefully will be relatively soon, that they're prepared to go in and seek permitting, which would be a comprehensive permit through the Zoning Board of Appeals. And absent an appeal to that, they anticipate getting through that in about 6 to 8 months. And then at that point, they would put together their pre-application for funding. They need to have zoning approval in order to submit that. And they're hoping to go in with their application for funding in February of 2026. So about a little over a year from now. And then, as you're probably aware, projects aren't always funded on the first round. So potentially it would go out further, beyond that, into the next funding round. But, and then once they have funding, then they go to, they're closing on the financing. And then, but simultaneously with seeking their comprehensive permit, they would be doing their what you call their due diligence, which would be to inspect the property, to do their title research, and to also survey the property. So that's what I know in terms of where we are on this particular transaction.
Katie, that's fantastic, because be honest, I haven't, I think Joel's been on vacation or not sure here that much, because I've been frustrated now and unable to get an update of where we are on getting the ground lease. And I have to admit, I'm a little frustrated because I thought our obligation was to complete the initial land disposition and ground within 90 days. And the 90 days is long past, and so I don't want to, I assume I shouldn't lose sleep. I've lost a little that I don't want to lose this project because we've missed a deadline of some sort.
Yeah, no, don't. I would sleep soundly on that issue. Maybe there are other issues you might not want to sleep soundly on, but I think you're, those deadlines are, optimal, but they're rarely met, and everyone's working hard to, bring this forward.
Yeah, because I understand there's a lot of time, the 6 to 8 months or, the year once, but I keep saying that but it has to, it only starts when it starts. I mean, in the first one, there's the first agreements have
Yeah.
to be signed, and then
Yeah,
this process, and we probably won't get funding within the first year. I understand that, but
yeah.
well, you make me feel better because
Yeah.
we felt we had momentum going, and now it seems to have slipped away from us.
Not in my opinion.
Okay.
I think things are going sort of as a matter of normal
Okay,
course.
you're making me feel better. Can you you'll get this information to us? The timeline that you suggest you might be able to give us, that'd be useful as well.
I'm sorry?
The timeline you suggested you might be able to give us, that would be useful as well, I think.
Are you asking for that in writing, Larry?
Yeah.
Yeah.
What is that?
Okay. Sure.
Yeah, that'd be great.
I could do that.
That'd be perfect.
I'll send that along with the ground lease.
Okay.
Which I hope to have to you, when's your next meeting?
It's the 12th of February.
February 12th. Well, I think you'll have it in plenty of time for that.
But I'm glad you say that because this is our commitment as a board, and I always speak for the board, what can I tell you, whether I'm right or wrong. Our commitment as a board, though, if we need to meet to be sure we're moving ahead with it, we'll hold a special meeting.
Oh, okay.
And so when it's available,
Okay.
our commitment is we don't want anything we do to hold this up.
No, that has not been the case, and unfortunately, these things don't, they do take time.
Okay. Well, that's a great discussion. Thank you. Any other questions? Okay, Katie, as I said, you've made my day. Thank you much. I'm going to turn it over to first Bob because he's been the most persistent of asking legal questions.
Two questions on my mind, Katie. One is with regards to the sale of property that the trust owns. Do we make that decision to sell or not sell on our own, or do we need to get sign-off from the town on those actions?
Oh, on separate other pieces of property?
Yeah.
Other pieces of property that we own
Oh,
in the trust name?
okay. Okay, so I don't have in front of me the, the trust declaration. I wasn't expecting sort of more general questions, but I can certainly, it varies from town to town. Sometimes trusts can convey property on their own. Sometimes they can, they require, the approval of the select board. Sometimes if the property's valued at certain amounts.
I think, thank you, Katie. I think to Bob's point, if we read that, that's within our authority to sell.
Yeah, I don't think we have any
That's
restrictions.
that's pretty clear. So we have that in our bylaws, so we can
In
do
your
that.
bylaw,
Yeah.
I just don't have that.
So,
But that's not uncommon.
Do you have something in addition to that though? Because that I think is pretty clear.
Okay.
How about expanding on that question? If we could sell a property, I guess the big question is how do we do it? Do we need to have it surveyed, appraised?
Yeah,
Can we
that's the
just get
question
an
I think
RFP for a real estate broker to come and put it on the market? Like, how do we do it?
Yeah, well, the Affordable Housing Trust is part of the town. Obviously, you have authority and to do things that other boards and commissions don't have, without town meeting. But the procurement rules would apply.
Yeah.
And the procurement rules generally, an appraisal is a good idea, but it's expensive, and sometimes sometimes you're seeking to generate funds, sometimes you're, as in, the Queen Anne Road disposition. Oh, actually, no, you're getting funds there as well, but what you would want is, the statute requires that you do not have a certified appraiser, but have someone determine the value of the property using standards that are accepted within the appraisal industry. But I will say that oftentimes, towns reach agreements with parties without actually having appraisals, official certified appraisals, a certified appraisal. But you would issue an RFP. You don't generally, it's very unusual to use a real estate broker. I haven't seen that. There are certain situations, but generally not. And you don't need to survey property unless you believe that there are issues regarding that property that warrant a survey, because you obviously don't want to go out, and same with title. If you believe that there may be a title issue, you would have title done or survey done so that you don't go out to bid and then find out, and be on the cusp of closing a deal and find out that there's an issue.
Correct. So you're not required to have title done or required to have a survey.
Okay. And is there a difference between the idea of an RFP, request for proposal, and an invitation of proposals?
Most often in the real estate context, you use the phrase request for proposals. I've often seen invitations for bids in services or goods.
Mm-hmm.
It's somewhat of a semantic issue.
Yeah, I'm thinking something different, I think, Katie. Let me just clarify what I'm thinking. I'm thinking about the possibility of the trust inviting proposals relative to the disposition of a piece of property that we own. And by inviting those proposals, trying to engage with the community to find a way that would be creating the best possible use of a piece of property, and also bringing in some cash for us to be able to use to invest in other housing related activities. That's what I'm thinking about, and I'm not sure if that concept even exists. In architecture, it would be a design competition that invites other architects to jump on an idea and a project that they want to see happen. And there's a competition. I'm thinking about wanting to have kind of a competition of proposals for the best use.
Yeah, absolutely. That is inherent to RFPs. Sometimes essentially what you do is you have, say, a series of minimum criteria, then you have evaluative criteria, and you're looking for as many proposers as possible to present the best idea for use, that's essentially what you did on Queen Anne Road, except, I don't know how many proposers you had, But yeah, that's what you're looking for whenever you're disposing of property is the best, potential end user. And then you set forth a series of criteria that you might be looking for, and those can be broader or more specific or
Okay.
both.
Okay, that's helpful. Thank you.
Does that answer the seams, Bob? We can write our RFP as broadly as we want to, it does.
Yeah.
So that, okay,
So I have another question about selling the property. If we have to choose the appraising authority, so if we're not going to do a survey or an official appraisal, if we deem that a real estate broker could do it, will we do an RFP for real estate brokers to come to be the appraising authority? Do we have the power to do that?
And I have not seen that done.
So how do we get how would we get the appraisal if we're not doing an official
Well,
appraisal?
You would have an appraisal. If you're looking to not find, if you wanted to have someone do an appraisal, you could do. Generally, it wouldn't be over the amount. You could solicit 3 bids if you were looking for an appraiser.
Oh, you're saying just do 3 bids to sell?
Yeah.
Right, and then
No, 3 bids looking for an appraiser.
no, I understand that. I know
that.
we could do that, but if we don't need an appraiser, so like for example, can we use the assessor cards to create the value?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, you could.
Right.
Yes, you could, but understanding that, assessments may
I know.
or may not reflect the true value.
Mm-hmm. Understood.
Julie?
Similar to, thank you, Larry. Similar to the process of the disposition of land that we're doing on Queen Anne, I would imagine. I don't think we did, we didn't do an RFP for an appraisal, not to my knowledge.
Well, we did an environmental study on that. So
No, not Queen,
Yeah.
sorry, let me clarify,
Which
not Queen Anne Road for Penrose.
I
I
don't-
mean,
I don't
the
think-
land up by the dump that we've been selling, we
Yeah.
have different
Oh, I'm
parcels.
sorry. Okay, I'm sorry.
So,
There's 172, 178,
thank you.
and then there's 246.
246,
Are you
yeah.
referring to those?
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So how did you sell those?
So we went out, basically identified the parcel, identified what we would
Yeah.
accept as a minimum,
Mm-hmm.
and then put it out there.
But who came up with the minimum?
So I think we looked at the field cards and then, an overall evaluation of what made those parcels valuable, is because there's not a lot of parcels left in the industrial district. So that added value because it's limited. I can't speak to the specifics, I wasn't involved in that process, but that's how we identified the land, the overall value or a minimum
Yeah.
bid. So it would be similar?
Yeah, it would be similar. I wasn't involved, I'm working on those now, wasn't involved with the RFPs on those, I don't believe, but, obviously, the objective there was solely to generate income.
Right.
Right.
As opposed to, I think, some of the, concerns raised tonight, which are to, to have certain, proposers develop property in certain ways,
So-
with a certain goal or objective in mind.
So just for clarity and to you, Julie, the select board came up with the dollar value, the minimum they would take, and you went to RFP.
So that's where I will follow up with Joe and Megan on the process that they
Right.
used.
Well, you put the bid out.
Right.
Right.
And then,
And you had.
There were 2 RFPs for
To
those.
us.
Yeah, so you had
yes.
2, so,
Yeah.
all right, so that seems pretty straightforward.
the other thing about this idea though, because I love this idea of
Yeah.
getting, what's
broad-
the overall intention of what would
Yeah.
you do with this land?
Yeah.
This speaks to me in the sense of we just had the joint meeting with LPC and the
Mhm.
planning board, and we talked about the fact that, what we really need to do is continue to look at unique ways to bring private-public partnerships together. I think that's a great way to go.
Yeah.
We haven't done a lot of that, so, you know, I don't wanna step out of the box of what we're supposed to do, but whatever it is we're doing, I love that idea, and I think that's what we need to do more of.
Yeah, I think it's a great idea.
Yep.
Okay, that's good. Anyone else?
We had a proposal at our last meeting, Katie, on how to make more ADUs happen in Harwich. And it's a very exciting proposal, and one of the things that I think to be true is that we need to have legal counsel sit with us and kind of go through all of the different challenges that this concept represents. Is that something that we would be able to do in person?
Yeah, I'm prepared to discuss this a little bit this evening, but not in great depth. Probably Amy Questle would be in a better position to speak to it, but I did touch base with her, and as you're, prior to this evening, and are you all familiar with Amy?
No.
I
Yeah.
know Julie is, but she's one of my colleagues. And but what she advised is that under the new ADU legislation and the regulations, the draft regulations that have just come out, ADUs are, permitted as a right depending on, certain criteria. And if, I don't know if you're talking about ADUs under that legislation, but apparently, or not apparently, it is prohibited to, I'm assuming you're trying to, are you talking about creating affordable restricted housing?
Yes.
Correct.
Yeah, because apparently that is prohibited under this new legislation and the proposed regulations.
What?
You can't impose a restriction that limits the, people to specified income levels. What Amy explained was that if you're looking at creating ADUs outside of this legislation, in other words, if the town adopts zoning that would allow ADUs beyond those permitted or not permitted, but basically, as of that can be done as of right. If you go beyond that, you could potentially create restricted, affordable, ADUs, but not under this new legislation and these proposed regulations. So we can look into that. I'm not sure. I'm not aware that you go beyond what's required under the new law at this point. So it sounds like it may not be something that would work well unless you amend your zoning as well.
Right, because if not, then we're asking, instead of doing it by right, if we went our route, you're asking someone to do by special permit when they have the right. So it gets a little convoluted there. Okay. Huh.
Right.
Okay,
All right.
Okay. So,
yeah.
I didn't see that in the, because the planning board met last night and they spoke about this in depth. And I didn't see that restriction. But either way, I think the end result is, what we did is we had a resident come in last meeting and they talked about a plan about us getting dollars for, doing an ADU. And we always ran into the problem, like towards the end, how does it convert? And then who would manage it? Does it stay a rental? I think that's what we wanted to get into conversation-wise. But this is a curveball. I wasn't expecting this.
We'll have to explore it.
Yeah,
We'll have to
we'll
explore it farther.
Yeah. Okay.
Julie, and then
I'll send these draft regulations along.
okay.
Is it in the statute?
It's in the regulations.
The regulations? All right, maybe I didn't see that. Okay.
Amy Questle sounds like the resource.
Right, we'll have to keep moving
Yeah.
on.
Yep.
Julie?
Yeah, so actually maybe I'll follow up, because isn't there also something with the seaside communities that we,
That we're supposed to get regulations. In
Yeah,
fact,
that
I
we
printed out
were-
some documents, it seemed like we could move ahead with it,
yeah,
but we need to clarify it.
Right.
so, okay.
Because I was searching that as well
All right.
online, and but the terminology kind of leaves me, because they talk about the shy list, and then maybe that, I don't know. We'll come back to that.
Okay.
We'll come back to that. I'm going to move on then.
That's great.
Thank you very much for taking the time to join
Oh, you're
us,
very
Katie.
welcome. It's nice to
And
meet.
I hope we were kind
Thank
to you.
you.
We asked you we caught you a little off guard, I know, but then that's,
No, I don't think so. So anyway, have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you very much.
well, you're welcome to
Take care,
to
Katie.
stay on, but,
It's probably.
Good night, Julie.
Take care.
right,
Bye.
goodbye now. Next on the agenda, I sent you, I'm going to, 1 second, and well, let's see. Let me move the agenda, and you're going to recuse yourself, I think.
That's correct. Yeah.
Okay, why don't you recuse yourself? And John, let me put you on the agenda so we leave it, so we get it in while we have, during our normal program here.
And then, Larry, I may not be back because of historic. I can do
Right,
it too.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys.
Bye.
Don't forget your plug.
We always seem to be rushed on these meetings, but starting next month, for the rest of the year, I think we should be home free. We're starting at 5:15 with the assumption we have no meeting after us. And so we can go a little longer than, but listen, we got,
Actually, this is probably the most useful. This is actually. That one.
John, if you could just very briefly give us an overview.
Yes.
And I think Brianna's on the line. She doesn't show us her picture after she started, but she sent me an email as well that said you had met with the community development, the town staff, and that went very well. Maybe you can give us a brief comment on that and what you're taking, and we'll move ahead.
Yeah. Hello again. Good evening. My name is John Carey. I am doing the West Harwich School. Thanks partially to you guys as well, and that is going well. What we're here to talk about tonight is a project adjacent to the West Harwich School and next to the West Harwich Baptist Church. And it is a piece of property that my fiance and I purchased in September, and we are looking at building more year-round housing for Cape Codders. We're looking to build 40 units over the next probably 3 to 5 years. It would be a 2-phase project, but it would all be one project. It'd be permitted as one. What I'm hoping to work with you guys on in a public-private partnership, which I agree with Julie, it's a great path for the town and helping build what the town needs. I am, as you guys know, a one-man show. I don't have a corporation. I don't have a company I hide behind. I don't have large bank accounts. But I think it's good for the town to work with people like me because I'm accountable. I have to look you all in the eyes every week. And if something happens that you don't like, I can't hide. So that's why it keeps the developer accountable. So it makes sense to work with smaller people, I think. So this project is looking like it's going to go in the direction of rebuilding the West Harwich.
Next door. Historic?
Historic is next door. Next door? Yep.
So this project, we had 2 versions proposed. The original one was going to be smaller projects, and then what the town has seemingly wanted to have done is to rebuild a historic building that was demolished here in Harwich. This is the version the town did not want to do. So we're calling this one the Harwich Exchange version. It would comprise of 3 buildings. The first would be the Baker House, which is currently sitting there. It would be picked up and moved to the back of the property and restored similar to the school, and it would be 2 year-round apartments. And then the second building would be a 12-unit, apartment building that would probably look a lot like the West Harwich School, a little bit bigger and a few more windows. And then the third building would be a exact replica of the old Harwich Exchange, and the only thing that would really change would be the window package would be more accommodating to apartments than,
And so this is one of the 3 that you're proposing,
that will be the third building, yes.
exchange
Yep.
replica.
And it's 58 feet wide, 100 feet long, and the top of the cupola is also 100 feet. So it's a tall building, but most of the building it's 4 stories with the gable.
You feel comfortable getting a height waiver?
So I've gone before a couple different meetings. One was the community development meeting, and shockingly, I thought this would be too much building for there, but they unanimously wanted this building, and they said the best path forward would be a friendly 40B, so you can get the height variances,
Yeah.
and it's a more straightforward process.
Right.
So yes, but they said if I didn't want to go that route, they could figure out the waivers.
Well, it's great. I mean, certainly you've hit a soft spot because everyone still moans about the idiot selectman back in the day that gives us someone to compare to. That decided they couldn't afford to keep the exchange building up.
I think one of the biggest problems with building housing down here is people are used to getting projects that are ugly, don't fit in the community, and once they're built, especially I live in Hyannis, a lot of them get built and they're eyesores. So I think we have an interesting path forward here where we can build historic, beautiful structures and sneak in enough units where we're actually making a difference. Most people that come look at the school would say, do you have 3 or 4 units in there? And they'd have no idea that there's 7
Yeah.
because we're doing it appropriately. So something with the Exchange building, I think will be the best looking building in Harwich. And I think you'd be shocked to know that there's gonna be 26 apartments in there. And the first floor will be almost entirely commercial. There'll be coffee shops
Yeah.
and sandwich shops and a taco place and maybe a place to get your hair cut. So I know we're here to talk about affordable housing, but this is an opportunity to kind of transform, part of Harwich. It's real change. It's not a couple units down a dirt road that nobody's going to interact with. This is something that will change kind of the gateway to what is Harwich. The transportation traffic study that was just put out showed 28 in West Harwich as the most daily trips entering Harwich, which means it's the gateway to our town. And right now, you look at the picture with the blue sky there, it is a ghost town. There's so much potential, there's so much opportunity, there's a blank canvas. Most of the neighbors are buried in the ground. It is not a bustling place. So we have an opportunity to build real, beautiful stuff there. And so I guess the point of this meeting is I'd be interested in working with you guys, if you'd be interested in working with me, to put together a plan to get more year-round capitally affordable as part of these 40 units. And if you guys were interested in it, I could phase it so it was maybe more digestible for what you guys would be comfortable doing annually.
Thank you, John. Just open the questions, but my initial, for me personally, I'm very interested. But and I appreciate you coming and giving us this overview. I think if I look at what we've decided our process is, the first step is to fill out that journal form we did before about where you're going and sort of a rough timeline, and then we can formally look at that and then get back to you and ask you for details on the process. That's what we did with the fire station, and I think we did that. So we start that and see where it goes. It looks, I mean, I'm sure you've, let me ask you a question. I mean, the height jumps out because that's easy. Are there other obstacles you think that you're concerned about?
We will make sure we're compliant with parking. Everything else will be compliant. The only real thing is the frontage. I think that the historic district only allows a 50-foot frontage. This building was 58 foot. And then the sticky note, I should have explained that, would be the position and size of the building compared to the lot, roughly.
Okay.
So while the cupola would be tall, where the gutters would be 40 feet, which is not much. It's 3 feet taller than the church.
Right.
So the structure itself would be slightly larger than the church, but not substantially. It would have a wider face, it would have a bigger gable, and that cupola, it was an 18-foot cupola on this structure. I'm happy to leave it off, but I think most people would want to see it.
Oh, yeah. It does, yeah.
Is it
Julie, please.
is the cupola, isn't that not part of the height, though? Aren't they not considered any kind of, I can never say the word, appurtenances?
Yeah.
If I can't say that word.
That's okay. We know what you want.
Yeah, I
Just
think,
did.
yeah, thank you. Well, and not that you have to worry about that now, that's
Yeah.
just, but I thought that, but I could be wrong, but I thought they didn't go to the height. So that would be helpful.
And the usual questions that will come up will be density and
Right.
traffic.
Right.
But that area is, well, let me not go there. It needs help.
Yes.
And I don't think we need to get more into it than that, but I think it needs help.
Yes.
Yeah. So I think the structure would be close to 58 to 60 feet tall,
Okay, yeah.
which is more reasonable.
Did I steal your pen?
John, you're talking, I thought I heard you say 40 units, and then this image has 38 units.
Yeah, correct.
And you've got the other two?
Yeah, the final
That's
two
what
would be in the
referencing.
Baker House, and
Gotcha,
he didn't.
okay.
Union didn't include that because they're not part of the Baker House.
Okay.
So
Okay.
I'd be building 38 new, and 2 would be in the Baker.
And in terms of looking at how this would work financially for you,
Mhm.
what do you see as the potential in the number of affordable units?
So the interesting thing for me as a developer is I don't have a lot of money. I'm gonna be able to pull a little money out of the school, I think about 300 grand, but then other than that, I need equity. So the I guess the beauty, or I don't know what the word would be, but partnering with you guys, that committed money almost becomes equity to a bank.
Yeah.
So by combining that money with what money I can put together, and then I have another private lender, then I have enough money, which would be 50%. This is probably an $8 million project. Then I can go to Cape Cod 5, and then they're on board. Right now, this process is this project feasible? Can I raise enough equity where then I can go to a bank and make it happen? So you guys are a big, unfortunate part of this.
But
Fortunately, a big part of this.
I guess what I'm trying to get to is, if you have 40 units and 10 of those units are affordable units, and this is all part of a 40B, then Harwich gets credit for 40 units onto the shy list as opposed to just 10.
Correct.
Right.
And is that in the ballpark of what you're thinking in terms of the number of affordable, capital A, units?
Yes, yeah. My ask, if you guys were comfortable with it, I guess with regard to process, I wanted to come here first because it's a lot of money, and I wanted to make sure you guys were comfortable with the idea and the project and stuff, and then I would come to you in the next meeting with a proposal. But I would like to do the same 25%, which is 10 of 40, so that all 40 count. Because while Pine Oaks might be a great project for what it's going to do, it's a lot of density in one spot. I think we can do a better job in Harwich of doing more mid-sized projects like this and spreading them out as opposed to dumping 30 or 300 in one neighborhood. So I'd like to get you guys that 40. I think that's a great win for the town.
Okay.
Okay. Julie?
I
please.
just had one question, not that it really matters to us, but I'm just curious in terms of, would you have to do like self-sewer, not sewer, but septic, the whole, where do you fit that? Yeah, on the,
So the site coverage on this plan is, it's like 30% building. So the parking lot is, you can't tell because the architect does a good job with all the trees, but we have over 60% of that site available for septic.
Okay.
Title V allows up to 90 bedrooms on a site. A normal developer would say 90 bedrooms, let's build 90. We're gonna end up around 58 bedrooms.
Okay.
You know, because I want to do my part to not overdo it on
Yeah.
these sites.
Okay.
So yes, it'd be a Title V system, and then I hope and pray someday that the sewer gets built there, and I can just attach to that. But I can't hinge this project on this because I could be retired by the time sewer goes through.
Exactly. Julie, anything more?
No,
Bob?
the
More?
idea.
I'm, just for the record, I'm very excited about it and very happy to be talking with you about it.
Okay. Claudia?
Yeah, same. Just the idea of trying to learn about other communities and what they're doing across the country. A lot of them are mixing the commercial and residential, so having something where people can frequent and we can support some local businesses down on the first floor, but then building that community so affordable. Maybe there's different ages, any kind of community-minded space, but with the affordable housing is fantastic. So
Yeah.
lovely.
Julie?
You just made me think of the fact that, I love the idea of commercial anyway, because the commercial with the, residential above also though is helpful and good. But I also think, I wonder what a great spot for like a child daycare or, combo. But the other part is whatever commercial goes in that spot helps the rest of 28 that has other commercial opportunities, and that helps bring people back. Like there were different restaurants and
Yeah.
things over there that have disappeared, right?
Yeah.
So like it needs a
Yeah.
draw like that to sort of spark it for the rest of the row. So I love the idea of the mixed, and I think we need more of it. But I also love the idea of, to your point about kids and whatever, we need to think about that too, because even though we're trying to help people with childcare, there's not enough childcare. There's not
Yeah.
enough providers. So again, it could be an opportunity.
Absolutely. I'm open to any business, and I think we build quality spaces. I think we draw that back. People always say traffic, traffic, traffic. Most of the traffic is people that I work with driving here for work. At least a large portion of it. Let's build some housing where people that work can live, so that you're not driving.
I think you have our endorsement. I find it, I'm always fascinated by, it's kind of like Back to the Future now, many of us grew up I grew up on a farm, but from a small town near Billy Centers. And
Yeah.
then for various reasons, it all got spread out.
Right.
And now we're trying to recreate the Billy Center concept, and it's tough
It
because
is.
people don't like change. But we can't afford to keep the 1 acre zoning and all this stuff and make it work. My other comment is I'm hoping to visit the site you're working on now sometime, and I haven't seen that since you were. I'm sure we all would like to go back
Yeah.
and see what's going on then. So
Am I allowed to talk about that now? I assume
No.
so. No?
now you can talk.
As I was saying earlier, we spent the last week doing the electrical conduit, which is underground to keep it the historical look of the building, so there's no wires going to it. The entire site is dug up with this almost canal going through it to land the transformer between the two buildings. We're going to pour that in concrete on Friday, and then I will backfill it by Monday, Tuesday, and then I will send an invitation out.
I was going to say after that, I don't want this falling
Yeah.
in a hole.
Because the second building is watertight, windows are indoors, roof's on, trim's on,
I
siding.
think we'd all like to see it.
Yeah, siding
I think
starts
we can do
on
that.
Friday, so it'd be great to have you guys through.
That'd be fantastic. Okay, so
One
that's-
last question.
Sure.
What are you thinking in terms of bedrooms, number of bedrooms, the mix?
So, just to be perfectly honest, the affordable housing units, it's better for me to do one bedrooms because once the one bedrooms, the 80% AMI is $1,700. There's also a utility credit you have to give the tenant, which drops down to $1,400. So that's not a bad drop for me on the one bedrooms. My two bedrooms, the market for those is close to $2,800. So that drops that down to $1,700. It's a wicked cost it's extremely costly for me to do 2 bedrooms, because then when I go to a bank and refinance these projects, they're gonna say, these buildings are not profitable enough, we won't finance this. So,
That's fine.
the more 1 bedroom I can do, the easier.
Okay.
But in terms of mix, I want to have it be 41, 42 bedrooms, and then a couple 3 bedrooms in the big building.
Gotcha. Thank you.
Yes.
I think we have consensus that we're excited about figuring out a way we can work with you.
Well, it would be huge in
And-
making this thing possible.
And so let's follow the process, come in with a general, then we'll go.
I will do all that.
And we're treating everyone the same, and we'll see if we can, this is great.
Good. Thank you guys very much. I look forward to next meeting.
Yeah, thank you so much.
Thank you, yeah.
And I will get you an email for an invitation sometime next week when it's warm out. It's been a cold couple days out there.
And you have the holes covered.
Yeah, when it's safe.
And is there a way to get this information so that Brendan can see it and all that before the next meeting, or will?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, I can send this all electronically to you guys.
Oh, great, thank you.
Thank you, John.
Thanks, John.
Again.
Thank you.
Moving item B on the agenda, I sent you all an email from a fellow, Frank Gizo, who's a retired attorney. He met with me, contacted me a few weeks ago. It turns out I know him, obviously not well, but we had met before in other circumstance. But he's interesting to me because if you've read his background, he's got a tremendous amount of background. And what he's offering to do is to help us, advise us on legal issues, on Penrose specifically. And I'd like taking him up on that. His caveat is that he is not KP Law. He's not taking the place of legal counsel. It's strictly his legal expertise as an advisor to us. And when he first contacted me, I sort of probably set it aside a bit. But then the more I thought about it, I said, well, doctors tell you should see more than one physician. Why would it hurt to bring someone in and have him give us some advice from his background? Because he's been involved with his career as land court issues. So I think to do that formally, we need to make a motion to invite him, so we can invite him to review the documents. And that's what I'm proposing. He's in Florida right now, so it'll have to be on Zoom or go to meetings. But and I gave you material we have. So Julie, any?
I'm just wondering in terms of, so I love the idea because anyone who can give us free, legal consultation, right? And that's what I was just gonna focus on is, because he's not KP Law, obviously, and he's not charging us, and
Well,
he's really just trying to help us.
And I, because he's underlined that several times to
Yeah.
me, that he's not our
Right.
legal counsel.
Right, and he's just, so he would be somebody that at least we could spend some time batting around our questions to,
Right.
Yeah.
who could organize our thoughts,
Yeah.
right?
And
And
be
then
sure-
we could go to legal, and overall, it saves us money because it's, right?
And for me, I'm hoping that he'll help us ask the right questions.
Exactly, that's
Right.
what I was gonna say.
Yeah.
And like just making sure the questions we're asking make sense
Right.
and that we've thought of everything to ask and,
Right.
yeah.
I love it.
Okay. Bob, your comment?
I would like to be able to meet him.
Okay. Can I, well, he's in Florida right now.
Well,
And so.
Pay for a ticket
Can we-
for me
can
to
we go
fly
to
to
Florida? What I can do is let me think about how we can do that. Maybe we can do it through Zoom or go to a meeting or something, at least that way.
Sure.
Or a phone call.
Yeah.
Okay.
I think it's a great offer on his part.
Well, he lives in Harwich, mostly, not now, but, and,
He lives here in the better months.
So you need a motion.
I would like to make it formal, yeah.
Okay.
So if anyone questions why we brought this guy in,
I'll make that motion.
okay, is there a second?
Second?
All in favor?
Aye.
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 Okay, I'll let him know, and we'll figure out the communication, when we do how we best communicate.
Mhm.
And I'll see what his capabilities are, because if we can do it through go to a meeting, we can set it up, at least
Sure.
do it that way. and have him join in some of our discussions.
Yeah.
Very good.
Okay.
I guess I can I ask a question? So one of the things I've been wondering about too is like things like rent control and how do we do that, and it's only applicable to buildings. Like I'm trying to learn about different things that people are doing across the country, and one of the things that comes up is, you know, rent control and how does that work? So I guess it would be interesting to ask him as well, like how does that work? Like say we wanted something like that in place for, you know, something like Queen Anne, and how would we have
Yeah.
gone about that? What would be the positive versus negative? What are the restrictions on it? Just, I'm noticing that the one bedrooms are, you know, $1,700, which I understand is what affordable is right now, but it's really feeling like, how are people going to save money and build equity and do the things that I think ultimately, well, I would want them to be able to do, instead of making sure that everybody, you know, they qualify every year and we're keeping this, you know, restriction in place. I guess I just want to find out, how do we expand that? And then I would also really be interested in sort of what maybe you were thinking, or maybe what I got from you was, what if, and sort of what we're seeing with John is, how would we go about something where if we sold some properties or we had more money and we were, like, how would we identify properties? Like, I have some properties in mind. So properties that aren't being used, that are more commercial, that would be more like what John's proposing. So we'd want some commercial use, some mixed use, maybe mixed ages. We'd want rent control, and we'd want them to count towards affordable housing. Just, for me, it would be really helpful to talk to somebody about, like, how does that work versus paying KP Law to be like, okay.
Let me ask you to do this. Why don't you email me some of the questions that you're interested in
Okay.
outside of this, and I'll contact you as a start, and see if
Okay.
we can arrange a meeting and see if he can what he can help us with.
Is there
Okay.
interest in that kind of? Okay,
Yeah.
all right.
Because to your point about the 1,700 for one bedroom, I agree, right? I mean, it sounds lower because some of the other rents is so crazy. But
But
unless
that's a lot
somebody's,
for it.
yeah, unless somebody's just, you know, like a couple or dating or whatever, you can split the rent. But if we're trying to keep young people or bring them back, really, because so many of them are gone, $1,700 a month by yourself isn't doable when you got student loans to pay and, you know, just living. So
Right.
how do we, and even if we said, okay, well, we've got our rental assistance program,
Right.
but, right, so I guess, and I don't know the answers, I love your thought process on that, because we've got a lot of, and a former planner said that, you know, we have a lot of buildings that exist. So we should be looking at how to rehab those buildings, add second floors, et cetera, instead of creating new footprints, right?
Right.
And I do know that that's more expensive than a new build, but some of that wouldn't be. There are some buildings that would be really
Yeah,
tough to
it's a mixed
rehab.
bag. You
Yeah,
could
but
do
there's
it.
a lot of decent buildings that you could rehab, and you could probably get different grants and look at the heat pumps and stuff that they're practically giving away, right? So I love that idea because it's twofold. It rehabs properties, brings them back to life, maybe adds another floor, maybe adds some more commercial and mixed. But the rent control, I'm fascinated by that too, because I never knew how they did that, like in Boston, Cambridge and such,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
But that's how people got to stay in their communities.
Right.
And that's exactly what we need, and we haven't really talked about rent control.
No, and we
We
haven't.
don't really know the ins and
But
outs of it.
I only
I
this
just got
now
like
because
6
you
books
hear
on it.
you hear that, but then you also hear the downside of it.
I know.
Right.
That runs the developed people out of business because they can't. So we need to figure this out.
Figure out how could you do it, right? Like,
Right.
I think
And
it's
make
a
it
great
make
thought,
sense.
though. It's just
Yeah.
another tool.
Just learning, yeah. And again, somebody
Okay,
like
let's-
Frank will be
yeah.
great. Okay.
Let's probably give me some of those
Okay.
questions, and
I'll
he'll be
stop.
sorry he asked to volunteer on Penrose.
I know, right? Yeah, hopefully he's more than Penrose, yeah.
But I think he's.
Well,
My
the-
impression is he's very anxious to help us out,
Which is wonderful.
and
We need help.
Is this
Yeah.
interest limited to Penrose?
I'm gonna find out, Bob.
Okay.
I doubt whether it is. I think it,
I hope it's not.
you read his email to me that he read that and decided and said he'd offer help, so I don't think it is. But we'll find out.
That'll be nice.
Really nice.
Okay, good.
Thanks.
We've moved on that. Thank you. I'll get back on that. The next item on the agenda, and I think I'm going to ask we postpone this again, the Zero Depot Road. Because we've lost Brendan again.
Yeah, it'd be nice to have him.
Because this is not urgent, but we need to do something on it.
Excuse me, Larry. I don't know if you see my hand raised. It's Brianna.
Oh,
I don't see you, but I'm going to call on you next anyway, so hang on.
Oh, okay. I wanted to just say something about your last conversation about rent control, but I can wait if you want me to.
No, you can do that because I'll give you a warning. I wanted to follow up on your email and have you discuss the firehouse and the lottery and your discussion with them. So why don't you start on rent control and then move on to the next subject.
Okay, sure. I don't know if you may know this or if this is new to you, but for 456 Queen Anne, it's going to be rent controlled because they are restricted to only renting, their rental caps are determined by HUD. So that project will forever and always be rent controlled. So I don't know if all affordable housing is restricted to those rent limits. So I don't know if that helps at all.
Does it
Sorry, go
change,
ahead.
Brianna, with, I mean, it seems like as things, obviously it just seems to go up. So would it be locked in at whatever that amount? Is it determined because we're doing it, the way we're doing it, does it have to be a very specific rent? Like, for instance, the firehouse is 1,700, John's talking about 1,700. Like, is that prescriptive, or can we decide if it's our project that we want it to be 1,200? I understand that no, we cannot do
Yeah.
that.
No, so the rates that all affordable housing restricted, so capital A affordable, the rental rates that they have are determined by the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development, or HUD. So there's really no getting around it. That's the standard, and that's what all affordable developers have to use.
And does it
I mean,
change, or could we say
yes.
like everybody comes in and it's 1,700 for the one bedrooms and we have that locked in and it never goes
No.
up?
Unfortunately, with the market and the cost of building and what the state is able to assist with financing, it does fluctuate each year. I think it's at the fiscal year when they send out the new income limits, they also send out the new rent limits.
Yeah, I think that's the question though, Brianna, is that's a rent limit. The question is, can we treat that as a maximum and say, in this case, we're going to rent at 1,500?
I don't think so. I will double check with you, but I
Okay.
haven't heard of that before.
Yeah, I think it would be a really good question to see what is our capability with that.
Yeah, I can look into it. From my understanding, I've never seen it before, but that doesn't mean that there is some wiggle room that I don't know about, and it would be great to be able to cap it at a more affordable rate for folks, for sure. So I'll look into it for you.
Okay, thank you, Brianna. The next subject,
Yep.
Brianna, this is not an agenda, but it's not a voting discussion. It's an update on the fire station housing on their, where they are on the lottery, to get that so we can start renting those out. And Brianna, could you just give us a brief update on that?
Yep. So I've been in touch with, I'm working with Eric. I don't know his last name, my apologies, but they delegated the task of the local action unit application and regulatory agreement to him. And Steve, I don't know his last name either, but so Steve and Eric came to me in early November.
But these are, excuse me, Brianna, but Steve and Eric, they're part of the fire station, the fire association?
Correct.
Okay.
Yep, sorry. They are part of the Harwich Fire Association. So they came to my office with part of their paperwork done, but they had a lot of questions, and So I reached out to Ali Sabatino at the Executive Office of Housing and Livable Communities, and she's the one who handles all of these applications for the state. So she actually met with them, answered a lot of their questions so that they could continue filling out their paperwork. And then I followed up with them yesterday, and they were asking about local preference. So they are going to go for 70% local preference. So that rounds to 2.1, but rounded down 2 of the units will be local preference if they're approved. However, just so you all know, local preference is only good for the initial lottery. Once the unit becomes vacant, local preference is no longer allowed for any development, not just specific to this one. So they're working on that, and then they have a bit of a hang up. They're waiting for some paperwork back from the State House to add into their application, and then the last thing they're working on is making the contract with Housing Assistance Corporation, because they are the only lottery agency and they're required to have a lottery agency. So I reached out to Housing Assistance Corporation yesterday. I haven't heard back yet, just to figure out what the status is with that, what needs to be done still. So we're working on it, but I think this is a learning process for us all, because I certainly didn't know, and I don't know if any of you did, but it typically will take someone 5 to 6 months to get all the documents to the state that are necessary for them to be approved. And then there is a 60-day marketing period with the lottery agency for the units before tenants can be selected, through the lottery process and housed.
Wow.
So
Yeah, that's,
we're working on it, but
yeah, that's
taking some
discouraging,
time.
5 to 6 months, you'd hope the state would be quick. But let me ask you, Brianna, is there a, do we have to submit, we being whoever, does someone have to submit justification for the 70%? Does that come from from you, from the selectmen, from us? Is there documentation that has to be submitted?
When I reached out to Ali Sabatino, it does have to come from the applicant, which would be Harwich Fire Association in this case, because it's developer. She suggested that they get information from the housing authority showing that there is a wait list for their unit, so there's still a need for affordable housing units in town.
Okay, and they're going to follow up with that then, so that won't be a hang-up, I assume?
Yeah, they're gonna follow up. I sent all the information to Eric yesterday. And then I actually talked to him again today, and I said, if there's anything specific that you guys need help with that I can do with you or for you, let me know. So he's gonna talk to Steve, and then, they're gonna get back to me so that I can help them. And then just to follow up on the process going forward. So as the town and the trust within the town, we are the only ones responsible for holding all developers compliant, to be in compliance with the guidelines set by the trust when you granted the funds. So going forward, I will be monitoring annually that each LUA unit, so local action unit, which will be John, in the next few years, it'll be, sorry, I hear my 1-year-old crying, but I shouldn't have a 10-year-old watching her, but I needed to talk to you guys. I will be responsible for collecting the reports from them and making sure that they're still using the monitoring agency and they're still verifying income and going through the wait list. So it will be John Carey, and I spoke with him today. I sent him all the information, and I said, get your paperwork done as soon as possible, because it takes a lot longer than we initially thought. So he's going to start it tomorrow, he said. So for the West Harwich Schoolhouse project and the 203 Bank Street, I will be monitoring annually and keeping a file of all of that.
Thank you, Brianna. And I did have an opportunity for an executive session decision today, because Brianna informed me of the monitoring responsibility and said that we could do it or she could do it. I gave that, I thought about that for probably an hour. I exaggerate, 2 seconds and said, Brianna. That's great.
I should hope so.
Thank you for the offer.
Yep. Thank you, Brianna.
And does that name ring a
Nice
bell?
question.
Ally Sabatino? She used to be our planner.
Yes.
Yeah, she's.
Oh,
yes,
nice.
Yeah.
Can I ask a question?
And
Sure
she's
can.
been amazing to work with. I've worked with her a lot on this project and application and all the information that we need, just because it's my first time going through it as well, and she's been great.
Yeah, she's
She was great,
wonderful.
we know she did great. Go ahead, Claudia.
No, I don't have one. Thank you.
Oh, come on.
No, it wasn't, I just answered my own question in my head, so.
No, but we may want to know what it was.
I know, right? You want to know how silly it was? It was the idea that we were checking with the housing authority on the waiting list, and I'm like, we should check with HPC on the rental waiting list, but it's two different things, so
But,
there it is.
well, I would like, I do have, from your previous discussion, Claudia, I did write myself a note that we should give an update at our next meeting of how the rental assistance program is going.
Yeah.
Well, I thought about that, but we also put in there that we only want a biannual update. So I was like, oh, we're gonna get another. I'm like, oh wait,
Okay, so you're gonna let us know when
it's
the
not quite
biannual
6
is.
months yet.
Okay,
I assume they're gonna give it to us, but yes, I'll keep an eye on it.
okay, good. Thank you. Thank you, Brianna. Anything else?
Nope, that's all I have for you today. And I'm gonna head off if that's okay.
Okay, that's fine, because I think,
Good night, Brianna.
good night.
Good night.
Thank you, have a good night.
That takes us through our agenda. Just to comment, our next meeting then is Wednesday, February 12th at 5:15. And, yeah, yep.
You have time for a comment?
We do? Let me just finish my thought here. And I think this week I kind of messed up because of, but I think following, we have this, there's no one follows us, so it's 5, it will be in the main meeting room again, so I think we're okay. Art?
Art Bowden, back again. I didn't get my hand up fast enough when the discussion comes about on rentals. Now, if you own the property, the town of Harwich owns, say if the town of Harwich owns a piece of property and they're renting it out, with no funding from any source at all, but from the town, you can rent it out for anything you want. But once the state comes along, and that rental unit has been bought and paid for, or partly, by the state tells you what you're gonna rent it for.
Right.
Yeah,
And we're all locked into the AMI.
because we
the
have
average
got money
medium
from
income.
CPC and CPA and all
Yeah,
that stuff. Yeah.
so, I mean, you say, well, and then the other thing is, and the dirty word in the room is, everyone's gotta make money. Now, you take an apartment that say, is just for round figures, at the top is gonna be $1,500, and you say, well, that's too much, I'll let it go for $1,000. You can't keep it, you can't keep the doors open, you can't keep it running because you have all the expenses to it. And that's what you're up against. I mean, so everyone along the way, unfortunately, has to make a profit. Otherwise, the wheels don't turn. Or if they turn once in a while, after a while, they'll fall off because you can't keep up the maintenance and so on and so forth. You can't pay the water bill, the electric bill, all the heating and all this stuff that goes along with it. So you're kind of locked into what the state tells you. But now, if the town of Harwich, solely their own entity, I'm assuming, just wanted to build a small apartment complex, and I'm going to rent these out at half the rate, the town says, and it obviously would have to go to a town meeting, and we'll. Because we're good people, guess you can do it.
Yep. Okay, well, we'll
That's
explore
all I
that.
want to say.
Okay,
So,
thank you, Art.
Or, can I just follow up on that
You
thought?
may, sure.
So the only other thought I have on that, and that, obviously the town doesn't want to be the landlord, right? So that's the biggest problem we face. But, again, trying to think out of the box on some of this stuff to Claudia's point about, rent control or even just the rehabbing of buildings. and this is maybe something Frank could help us. Frank, wasn't it? Right?
Frank, yeah.
Frank, or maybe we can even reach out to Ally and these different resources. But we have so many different companies, construction companies, etc. I mean, I work for one, right? There are so many different partners that are interested in creating that housing that I'd love to know, how is it that we could maybe go about some of these rehabs? Is it that the trust could say, hey, there's these couple of buildings on 28 and we're going to buy them. We're going to partner with a couple. I'm just making up stuff, you know, different smaller construction companies that are looking to try to figure out a way to help get people, because they're losing people, right? Or they can't hire people. And maybe they put in some of the construction work and get that parcel and property up. I wonder if there's a mechanism to bring those two, again, public-private, together, and then maybe there's a way to then better control those rents without taking state monies, you know what I'm saying? Like, kind of like I was talking to Brian from the Harwich Fund, because I was talking about what the trust is doing in terms of rentals, right? And what the assessors, the Board of Assessors does in terms of, you know, tax rebates, et cetera. Rebate is not the right word, but you know what I mean.
Yeah, tax credit.
Credits and stuff. And I was saying, you know, we need to think of other ways that we can help people. And I was given the example of insurance, like homeowners insurance, and how that's knocking people out, right? So he liked the idea because I said the town can't do that. The town cannot be involved in helping people pay certain bills. But if we as a community can come together and either, you know, raise money through that Harwich Fund and then work with other partners to get these different things, because I think to John's point, it would be wonderful if we could be building stuff all over town. No particular neighborhood is overburdened, and yet it's also more conducive to our community to have housing and commercial space. But there's got to be a way to do it if we can just start thinking in different avenues instead of being married to federal and state funds. Because once they're involved, we have no control.
Well, and like,
Go ahead.
I think with what you were saying too is just such an interesting idea. If we were to do that and then we put out parameters of, you know, this is what we want, what do you got?
What
and
can you
just be really creative. And even in looking at, like, if we don't do rent control, right, there, can we do tax incentives? Can we do zoning incentives? Can we do, like, you look at all this, like, other options that are just literally AI these days, right? So I just typed in rent control and it was like, this is where it is in Massachusetts, this is why, this is what's been going on, they try to reintroduce it, but here's 6 alternatives that can also work, which include inclusionary zoning, housing assistance programs, tax incentives, zoning, and subsidies. So it's like, well, we have a lot of power in the position we're in.
Yeah, that's a good discussion. And
So you're already doing it, but,
Well, there's a lot more to do.
yeah,
A
well,
lot.
of course.
I think
So-
in my mind is, and I appreciate your comment, but I think we have to be careful that we don't put roadblocks in us while we're going forward. Because for me, I think of rent control, I get really negative context right away, you know, because you have so many towns that say rent control, or cities drove people out of business, but you know, but still we need to discuss it because there are various forms of that. Plus, when I listen to Julie, just thinking, well, you're talking about the people around us that have basically bailed out of housing. They bought their own. If you look at Wishmere, you know, they now bought. If you look at Wacquasit, they bought places for other people to stay.
Right.
Well, you know, I think some of the comment you made, you have to think, well, what would happen if we were to partner with and they put up half of the money to build housing for their employees, and we put up the other half. Some ideas like that.
Yeah.
That, you know, private partner,
That we're not
more than just, you know, but I think this has been a great
Partnership, but-
discussion, yeah.
You know, something like that. I mean, I feel like, you know, we've been through some, and I mean, you know, all of these housing initiatives are great, whether they're big and they need to tone it down, whether they're not, whatever. I mean, they're all open for discussion and review by the appropriate boards.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, we have, you know, and traffic is traffic is traffic. We deal
Right.
with traffic
We all do, yeah.
2 months out of the year that it's immense traffic, so whatever happens, we have to deal with traffic. And, you know, we heard the other night, and we didn't, our packet was like 700 pages.
Yeah.
But you know, just thumbing through, it is like, okay, well, these are problems whether or not you build one more housing unit, they need to be fixed, right? And they certainly need to be fixed if we're building more. But they are a problem, and it's a lack of investment in infrastructure that's gone on over time. So we have to get behind those improvements. Now, we can't afford every single thing all at once, but we can tackle
start.
it.
Yeah.
You know, we can
Yeah,
start.
We can start.
So, I mean, to consistently say, you can't do this because you got that. You can't do that because of
That's the
this.
thing, can't roadblocks.
Can't do
Let's
that,
figure out
right.
some
It's
solutions
frustrating.
and see where we go.
You know,
I like it.
but
And
can I
that,
just
and that takes creativity.
right, exactly,
yep.
And just thinking
Yep.
different ways, or creating those partnerships with private industry, because we have plenty of it around us.
Right.
We have tons of it,
Yeah.
and they have the same interest and they have the same problems.
Oh, absolutely, that's what I'm saying. I'm looking at, you know, these guys, I look at them and see, well, they're bailing out of the housing crisis, they're buying their own for their employees.
Yeah, right.
You know,
right.
why can't we help people that don't have all the money?
But you know, we say we want young people to come back. I mean, I have 2 kids, you know, my daughter is up in Brighton, but living with 3 other people because that's the only, like, it's a 4-bedroom,
Yeah.
granted, but, you know, they're each paying $1,000 a month, that's $4,000. Like, that's a lot of money,
It is, yes.
you know? But can I just say one thing before I forget to ask you, because when I leave here, I'm gonna forget to email it. I just wanna say the other thing we talked about, couple things. Cleaning up the trust document, because I think it was Don who was mentioning
Don's-
that, right? You know, the
right.
board, which one are we talking about? So we do need to clean that up, but that also reminds me of the idea of talking about revising the trust to reflect 120%
Yeah.
of AMI, I believe. I
Yeah.
believe that's the max
Nice.
for now that we can
Yeah.
go to. But just want to say that because it's already January.
We need, yeah.
And we need to,
We need to do that. And Don called me as well, and so let me catch up with him.
oh, good, oh, great, okay, yeah,
And then catch up with you and get some.
perfect. Just so I didn't want to
Because then I
forget to say
promised
it.
Joe I'd do, I just haven't had a chance to do
No, I
something
know.
on that.
So it's a busy time.
Was the number, the 120, was that the initiative of Ed McManus at the town
No, he
meeting
went up,
last
he
year?
wanted to go, that's not going,
But
he wanted
he wanted
200%,
us
The
to,
200%.
which is not going
The
anywhere.
problem with that is that it's stalled at the state level, and it's probably, I mean, I can't speak to it, I'm no expert, but my understanding on the attainable legislation is, you know, the 200%. Well, the feds give us the money, they're the ones setting
It's a
the.
pass-through, and they're
We're
not
not gonna get there, but we can, my understanding is that you can change the trust currently to 120% of AMI.
Yeah.
And I believe that Orleans has done that or is doing
One
that.
of them is doing it, I forget.
Yeah.
So, yeah,
So.
What's it currently listed at?
that's a good game. I think it's 100%,
I think
but,
it's 100,
Oh,
yeah.
okay.
yeah.
But if we could get anything
But-
that gets us a little bit
But a
more.
little more,
Yeah,
because
right.
100% doesn't help a lot of our
Right.
profession, you know,
Right.
right.
tradesmen and
Still leaves a lot
nurses
of
and all the
people
people.
Yeah.
You know, it's just a teach.
And it's just that all that stuff, if we were gonna go forward with that, you know, the process of vetting and all those changes and
Yeah.
getting them voted,
Yeah.
I don't even know.
Yeah,
if
the
that's
problem
on.
with 200% is all of a sudden you get to be hard to argue. Well, it makes it.
I think the number
It's too
makes
high.
sense, it's just that then nobody's gonna agree to it,
No one's
because the
gonna-
federal government isn't gonna, and they're giving the state the money too, so
Yeah.
that
You won't get,
we're
you won't
not
get,
gonna-
you won't get state money.
No, we won't get anything.
So the town will have to come up with more money.
Right,
Or a private entity will have to come up with more money.
right,
But the
So-
town, the state, there don't be any more grant money.
right.
That's what I'm
Okay.
saying.
It's really an
Glad
overhaul
you
that
brought
has
it
to
up.
happen at the federal level.
It'll be fun.
Well, you know, it's good. I think we had good discussions tonight. I feel better because I've been worried about not getting any feedback at all about Penrose. You know, we had momentum and now it seems like we've
That
lost
was
it all. So,
Do we have, can I ask a question? Do we have inclusionary zoning in Harwich? No, okay.
You know, that's another thing. Now it's January, and this is what drives me crazy, is that, you know, I kept talking about after town meeting, zoning, when are we gonna work on the zoning? Because then we talked about a special town meeting, and I didn't want us to miss an opportunity, but then even if we were gonna have a special, we were advised by legal, that's not the place to have those changes. So now, then we talked about it, say, October, November, and it's like, believe it or not, it was too early because of the public hearings and things that need to
Right.
take place. Well, now's the time. So I'm gonna try to remember to follow up with Christine Flynn to see, because I know that Christine's been working on it, Amy Questel's been working on it, I think Joe's been involved, and maybe Rachel, I'm not sure. But I know that they're working on it, I just don't know where we are. And we don't wanna wait too long, because there's a bunch of things in the general bylaws and the zoning bylaws that need to be cleaned up.
Yeah.
So,
And
If
that's
you need
good.
me for any of that too,
yeah, okay.
Yeah.
So I'll find out.
Good.
because we did that in Chatham.
Oh, okay,
Yeah.
good, yeah. Plenty to do.
There's nothing else, I accept a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second?
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Have you ever been to a meeting where someone votes against adjournment?
What's that?
Who would ever?
I said, I've never been in a meeting where someone voted against adjournment.
Right. No,
Not ever.
All right.
good meeting.
Do we have to
Next
turn
month,
something on?
Yeah.
next month we have to vote on both minutes.
Okay, yeah, because I left that off. 'Cause I knew we were going to be short on time.
Yeah.
Have you pushed the right button?
So we just stop recording?